日本語を話せるようになりたいなと思ったことありますか？あるならこの動画を見ててくださいね。皆さん毎度、エボ日本語のエボニーです。Hey y'all! 今回の動画はですね、日本語でじゃなくて英語でやろうかなと思っていて、日本人の方がご覧になっていたらいつも通り字幕を入れておいたので参考してくださいね。では、早速ですが、英語タイム3、2、1! Okay, so if you saw the title of today's video, it is how to improve your Japanese speaking skills fast. And the reason that I'm making this video is because I would like to inspire other Japanese learners to improve their spoken Japanese. And I noticed that a lot of Japanese learners tend to struggle more with speaking than they do with reading and listening. And it could be due to a variety of reasons. Maybe they don't practice enough, maybe they don't have anyone to practice with. But the tips and tricks I'm going to give today are focused on what you can do by yourself so that way you can get those skills up higher once it is time to start speaking Japanese in the real world with native speakers, or maybe even it's for a job, that kind of thing. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so the first tip is shadowing. What is shadowing? Basically, it is listening to native speech and repeating after it immediately. And what you want to focus on with shadowing is correct pronunciation most of the time and good intonation. Intonation is a more tricky one, so if you can have correct pronunciation, then I think you're already making strides. And as far as what kinds of content you can use to practice shadowing, you can use anime, J-dramas, reality shows, NHK Easy News, or Japanese native YouTubers. And when I was in my big shadowing days, I used a lot of like dramas and reality shows. So one is called 100,000 yen onna tachi, or like 1 million yen women in English, and was not really a drama to reality show called Terrace House. I used Terrace House so much. Thanks to Terrace House, my Japanese went from textbook Japanese to young people Japanese. I highly support watching Terrace House and shadowing Terrace House. I mentioned anime as a way to shadow. I would say be careful if you decide to use anime, because a big portion of anime selections tend to have characters that speak really childish Japanese or rough, really tough fighting kind of Japanese. So if you want to emulate that kind of Japanese most of the time, then you should use anime. But if you'd rather have your Japanese be like more closer to like a college student or like a working adult, I would say stick to dramas or watching reality shows. And the other important thing to mention, as you watch, make sure you turn on the captions. So Netflix, more often than not, will have Japanese captions if you're watching in Japanese. But if not, you can also download like a Google Chrome extension. It's called Language Reactor. And with Language Reactor, the captions are in Japanese, and you can also see the furigana, like how to read the kanji, in the captions as well. So it's very helpful if you don't know a lot of like difficult kanji. And to wrap up this section, I will put an example of me shadowing something so that way you guys can see how it is done. 誰？
ビーフシチュー食べたいって言ったの。
食べたいって言ったの？
あれ？美味しくなかった。
普通クリームシチューじゃない？野菜が大きすぎる。少し濃いですね。私には薄いです。
味がぼんやりしてる。あんたみたい。でも全員に合わせるのは難しいかな。
大丈夫です。シチューって認識できますか？
ありがとう。
で、どうします？その子の名前。
Okay, so the next tip is talking to yourself. And I know this can be a kind of touchy subject for people, especially if you live with other people. Talking to yourself in your target language, people around you might be like, what is she saying? What? It's kind of off-putting at first, but this is a great way to improve your speaking skills. And you're probably thinking, what even do I talk about? It can be narrating like daily tasks in Japanese, actions in Japanese. Like for example, you drop something on the floor like, 落としちゃった or say like if you can't find your phone, it can be like, あれ？携帯ない？どこ？ It can be something simple. And usually when we talk to ourselves in Japanese, we speak in like short form, like casual form. But for those of my Japanese learners who have not learned like casual form yet, you can still talk to yourself in mas desu form. There's nothing wrong with that. And then once you learn, you can switch over to talking to yourself in casual form. I also want to add that talking to yourself in Japanese is just as important as talking in your target language of other speakers, because developing that spoken side of yourself in your target language, I think, is important to finding yourself in your target language. I think it's also important to be more comfortable in your target language, because if you're aiming to be an advanced speaker or even a fluent speaker, you need to be comfortable with your speaking voice in your target language, and by talking to yourself, you can develop that. And to finish out this section, I will insert a video of me talking to myself in Japanese. Enjoy!
今日の夕飯はラーメン食べたいけど、どっちにしようかな？日本風？韓国風？どっちも美味しそうだけどな。やっぱ辛いもの食べたいからこれにする。
Okay, finally, my last tip is thinking to yourself in Japanese. Why is thinking to yourself in Japanese important for speaking? You can think about what you want to say before actually saying it, right? The other reason why this is important is because, so my native language, for example, is English. If I'm thinking in English, but I'm trying to speak in Japanese, my responses are going to be delayed when it comes to conversing with a native speaker. So if you start to think in Japanese, then when it comes time to speak in Japanese, you'll be able to have faster response times. You need that inner Japanese voice, so that way you can turn your thoughts into speech accurately and with not much of a time gap. And without further ado, I'm going to insert a video of thinking to myself in Japanese. So please enjoy.
この桜緑茶美味しいな。何が入ってるんだろう。期間限定じゃなかったらいいのにな。まあ、とにかく最後まで飲んじゃおうか。
Alright, so these are the tips that I have for part 1 of this video. As far as actually putting these tips and tricks into action, you should be doing these every day, if not 5 to 6 days in a week. That's how you're going to improve as fast as possible. And I believe that Japanese speakers who are trying to learn English can do these exact same things. では、how to improve your Japanese speaking skills fast の動画はここまでです。いかがでしたか？もし質問があったら、ぜひコメント欄でお願いします。この動画は良かったなとか面白かったなと思っていたら、高評価お願いします。いいねお願いします。そしてご登録よろしくお願いします。では最後までご視聴ありがとうございました。次の動画でまたお会いしましょう。またね、バイバーイ。